Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Cyrus, and today we're going to be going over part 2 of our business and buildings tutorial in Seed. Where we left off in the last video, we had been talking about how to get your building started, how to build some of the interior, and how to transfer that building over to your brand new business. In today's video, we're going to be going over what you do when your building is complete and how to turn that into a stable and working business, along with how to furnish that building. As you can see here behind Merlin, Majestic Silkwood has finally been completed. That means our building is ready to be furnished, to hire employees, and to start making some seed coin. The first thing that you might notice is that when you open up the business tab for a fully constructed building, your menu looks a little bit different than when it did when the building was actively under construction. Now we can see we have the tabs for Overview, Employment, Production, Services, Inventory, Contracts, and Delivery. One of the first things you're going to want to ask yourself is what kind of business do you want to run? And what kind of business does your society need? These things can largely go hand in hand when trying to create a successful and profitable business. Now, the most common type of business people will create are manufacturing industries. Outside of that, you can create service industries that act as healthcare locations, restaurants, recreational facilities, and delivery services. Now, to start off this business tutorial, we'll explore the services industries a little bit. Now, the first thing you'll want to do is to go to the Services tab for the business branch that you've selected and select Start Service Location. From here, you can see in the top right that you can make the service building active or inactive. It's best during the setup phase that you start with this in the inactive mode. When your service industry opens its doors, it will go by a review system where seedlings will come in, spend some time, and if their desired needs are met, then they'll give a review based off the experience they've had at your business branch. To set up some of the basic details and operational settings of your service industry, you want to start off by selecting Edit Details. In this menu, you'll be able to change the description of what the building is and what kind of things it offers. Next, you'll want to alter your opening hours. This will largely be determined by the amount of seedlings that you have employed and during what times of the day that they are employed. So if you have employees only lasting for half the day, make sure that your operating hours reflect that. On the other hand, if this is a self-serve industry, you may be able to leave the opening hours to be all day long, and then your employees will come in and make their repairs and cleanup as needed. The last function of this menu that you will need to take a look at is the entry fee. This is the amount of money that seedlings will pay to enter the service building each time they go inside. It is important that you select an entry fee that is a fair price and competitive with the other comparable service industries in your society. An important note to make about the entry fee is that if you offer the same things as your neighbor but for a higher price, the seedlings will naturally choose the cheaper of the two options. After we finalize the details in this tab, we can go ahead and select Save. Next, we'll want to go to the second tab of the Services menu and select Advertised Services. In this tab, we'll be able to select the types of services that this building offers. So once again, if this is going to be a healthcare service, you may want to select Heal. Similarly, if this is going to be a restaurant or food industry, you may want to select Serve. If this is going to be a personal library, or maybe even a gym, then you may want to select either Practice Skill or Pursue Interest. Now, if this is just a general lounge or possibly a self-service restaurant, Satisfy Need can cover a lot of those bases. For the example in this video, we're going to create one of the most basic businesses that almost every society will need to start off with, and that will be manufacturing. Early game manufacturing will look a little bit different than what I'm doing right now. Now, in early game manufacturing, you want to make sure that your outdoor blocks completely cover and surround above ground nodes that can be hematite, stone, clay, or copper ore. Once you have the resources to either make a small mineral extractor or you have the ability to purchase one, you can dive a little bit deeper into the newer resource update, where you are no longer required to find and mine the above ground nodes. Since the resource update, resources have actually started to pop up underground. There are a few barriers to entry for this though. To harvest underground resources, you will need a couple of objects. Now that is a resource scanner, some power cells, and a small mineral extractor. Lastly, to actually turn any of the harvested hematite that we're going to be looking for today into usable resources that we can sell, we will also need to craft a metalworking bench. This is the first step along the metal manufacturing route and can process hematite into raw iron, and then raw iron into iron ingots, and then finally iron ingots into iron nails, to which we can then sell to Seed Industries, which is the NPC ran shop in the game. Seed Industries can be a great way to create some of your initial profit without relying on the irregular purchases of other players. Now that we have all of our tools and machines to get our metal production going, we now need to scan to see where we can place down our small mineral extractor. To use the resource scanner, we'll need to pick it up along with our power cells. Once we have all of these in our seedlings inventory, we can go ahead and select the ground, and select the scan option to complete our first scan. Each scan will scan a 3x3 area, and it will utilize one power cell. So it's a good idea to stock up on quite a few power cells, especially if you plan on scanning your entire 4x4 starter plot. Thankfully, resource scanners have an infinite amount of uses, so you only need to buy one resource scanner, but you will need to keep restocking or producing additional power cells. Now that we've completed our first scan, there are a couple points of information that we will need to look over. The first one being that there are now multiple differently colored squares we can see. This reddish pink one is for hematite, which we can eventually turn into iron. Now slightly above and to the right of Merlin, we can see that there is a blue color block. This color represents water. Now there's a little bit more information that we need to know when we are looking at these blocks. If you hover your mouse over any of these colored blocks, at the top of the screen you can see that it tells you what type of ore it is and what the abundance level is. On the initial block that we scanned, we can see that there's an abundance of 100%. This means that if we place a small mineral extractor down on the square, then every single time we try to harvest hematite from that square, we will successfully pull up a hematite ore from below the surface. On the other hand, if this abundance level was, let's say, 80%, and we place down a small mineral extractor there, then about 80% of our harvests we attempted, we would then get hematite. But on the other 20% of the time, we would only receive stone dust. This works the same way for every type of resource you can find, and if you are trying to extract water with a water pump. Now that we are done scanning this plot, we can see that there is water, hematite, and copper ore, all available on this one plot. Despite the barrier to obtain these resources that are underground, the variety of resources now available on almost every plot of land has greatly increased. Now that we are done completely scanning our plot, we can move on to the next step and start extracting the hematite from below the surface. When placing any machine or piece of furniture inside of a building, it is best to make sure that you are first placing those items within some storage within the building or any of the outdoor blocks. Otherwise, you may encounter an error that doesn't allow you to place those items down within the structure blocks. Since we have our small mineral extractor down, now we'll go ahead and harvest some of the hematite so we can start our manufacturing. Next up, we'll go ahead and place down our metalworking bench to set the processing chain in place. Outside of making sure that you actually have the skills and the machines to craft all of the materials that you need for your final product, it is also very important that you make sure that you have enough storage to store the desired amount of your final product that you want to have in stock. To get a good idea of how much inventory space you may need, it's best to take a look at the final product to see how much space you'll need to store everything that comes before it, and then, of course, the final product itself. You can see the volume of any of these items by going to the top right of the screen and selecting Catalog. Since our final product is iron nails, we can go ahead and see that to make 12 iron nails, we will need 1 iron ingot. Then, to make 1 iron ingot at our metalworking bench, we will need 20 raw iron. And then lastly, we will need 1 hematite ore to make 12 raw iron. To simplify this whole thing a little bit, to complete 1 full production cycle with an outcome of 12 iron nails, we will need 2 hematite ore, but we will have 4 raw iron left over for later use. Of course, before we start our production cycle, we'll need to make sure that our inventory is set up to take all the items that we need. So to do so, we'll go ahead and select our wood palette and make sure that the only items that it accepts are hematite, raw iron, iron ingots, and iron nails. We can go ahead and select unlimited for each one of these items, as our machines will determine how much of each of these we end up producing. After that, we'll want to go ahead and select our metalworking bench and select New Task. Once that menu is open, we'll want to select New Task again and type in Iron Nails. It's always best to start off with the final product so that your seedling first tries to create the final product and works their way down through the production chain. In this case, if you want to set up a refilling order of a product so you can make sure that you always have a supply, you want to go down and change the condition to due until X in storage, and then set up the amount that you want to make sure you always have a supply of. For this production chain, we'll want to make sure that we start with iron nails, then select iron ingots, and lastly, raw iron. A good note to take is to make sure that you always, at minimum, are keeping a supply of the minimum amount of what that final product needs to be crafted. So in this instance, we will want to make sure that there's always at least 1 iron ingot in storage, so that iron nails can always be produced. And similarly, we'll want to make sure that there's always at least 20 raw iron in our storage to make sure 1 iron ingot can be produced. Before we go any further, I think this is actually a great stopping point for us. At this point, we've created our building, fully designed it to fit all of the machines that we need, created the parent company, and turned our building over to that company to act as a business branch. Lastly, we have created the basic manufacturing cycle for producing our final products. In the next video, we will wrap up the whole business chain by creating employment positions at our business branch, creating a productive schedule for those employees to work through our manufacturing cycle, and how to have our final product repeatedly listed on the market. So, if you enjoyed this video and want to be notified as soon as the next chapter of this business tutorial is posted, make sure you give the video a like, subscribe down below, and keep an eye on your notifications. Also, if you would like to catch me live, make sure you visit my Twitch channel linked down below as well. Thank you guys, and make sure to let me know in the comments what other things you'd like me to show off in Seed, or ask any questions that you'd like me to cover in the future. But until next time, I'm Cyrus, and welcome to the dark side.